Sure.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And our tutors for today's class is Dr. Monishita Pandey. She is an assistant professor in the Department of Training and Development at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. And she will be teaching us poetry, and we are indeed very excited for her session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And let me see how many of are here. People are still joining, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so maybe we could wait for a few more seconds
Sure, ma'am, no
and
problem.
then I could start.
Yeah.
I see only 10 of us are here. So today we are focusing on poetry. And before I get started with the poem that I have chosen for you, I thought it would be a good idea to just collect some um, responses from all of you vis-a-vis your relationship with poetry. I'm sure all of us have read poems in either English or in our mother tongue or in other languages that we know other than our mother tongue and English. So, anybody would like to share anything? Or maybe some of us have written poems uh, as children, as young adults. Um, anything that you want to share? What is your relationship with poetry? Any defining moment that you remember from your life when you have read a poem or written a poem or heard a poem which has stayed with you? Any response? Your relationship with poetry or your favorite poem? Anybody can share what is their favorite poem. Any language doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be English.
I love poetry because it is, as per the word of William Wordsworth, it is the powerful feeling of, it is the spontaneous flow over the,
Spontaneous
sorry,
powerful feelings.
yes, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. And actually, I love one of the poems that stopping by old on a snowy evening. There is a last quotation is written that miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And that poems actually touched my heart a lot. And really, ma'am, it is a great thing and associated with the life.
Thank you so much for sharing. So, I believe you have also engaged with prose as a genre recently, and poetry is another genre of written expression. And like we have just pointed out, that poetry is a space which allows us to express our feelings and emotions very organically. Yeah. I'm sure you can think of some poems where the writer can also break some rules of language, right? You don't have to uh, write exactly how you write prose. You can innovate, you can be creative. Some poems can have a musical rhyme, some poems maybe just free verse where there are no rhyming scheme, right? So poetry as a genre that way really stands out from any other written expression because of the freedom that it gives to the composer, to the poet. Now let me quickly introduce you to today's uh, poem that we are going to read, discuss, think, talk about. So, this is a poem called The Trees by Adrienne Rich. She's an American poet, and we will know a little more about her as we go along today. And I have a task sheet for all of us to work on together. Uh, so, let me quickly share that with you. Right. So in the chat box, I'm just posting the Google document. You can open it separately, and I will share my screen so that all of us can see it. I want to share my. Just trying to. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. So this is the document on which we are going to work today. And you can look at the screen, or you can also open the document separately. So we're going to read a poem today called The Trees, and I have picked this from class 10 NCERT textbook. But although it is included in class 10 textbook, I find this poem to be very rich. It allows, multiple interpretations based on your experiences, your age group, your interests, etc. So before we read the poem, let us look at some of these words here. I have chosen 9 words from the poem here: cracks, shuffling, so on and so forth. So just look at these 9 words and take a moment to see if you uh, can guess the pronunciation of all these words and the meanings of all these words. Once you've looked at these words and you've tried to think about their sound, pronunciation, and meaning, you can match the words. 6 out of these 9 words, you can match them to these pictures given to you: A, B, C, D, E, F. So there are 6 pictures. You just have to put the word here. Just take a moment, 2 minutes.
Ma'am, you stopped sharing your screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought everybody has the document, or should I continue to share?
No, ma'am, it's up to them. Can all of you access the document? If there's any problem, just let us know.
Yeah. I can keep my screen also shared. You can see my screen, right? So, we are on the first page. Okay, so if we are ready, we can start taking answers. What do you think the first picture is? You can also post your responses in the chat box if you like. These are the 9 words we are looking at. So anybody wants to match the words to the pictures?
Can I, ma'am?
Yeah, please, Sharanya, go ahead.
I think, ma'am, the first picture A is train. The second picture B is bury, and C is stumbling. D is legions. E is crack, and F is veranda.
Okay, very good, Sharanya. But all your answers are correct except the first one. Anybody else wants to try the first one?
Ma'am, shall I try?
Please go ahead, Shubhranshu.
I think the first one is bough, the branch
Bough.
of a tree.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So we've got all the answers with us. The first one is bough, which is a branch of a tree. Bury. How do we pronounce this word?
Bury. Am I
Bury.
right? Bury.
Bury.
Okay.
Berry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So the first one is bough, Bough. Okay, the pronunciation is bough. B is berry. C is stumbling, like Sharanya has pointed out. D is lichen. Lichen. There is another pronunciation. Americans pronounce it as lichen also, but we generally follow the UK pronunciation. So lichen, I think most Indians are comfortable with lichen. We all get this picture, right? I'm sure all of us have seen a lot of lichen around our neighborhood. And then cracks, and finally veranda. Now my next question is, out of these 6 words, do you think any word has an Indian origin?
Yes, ma'am. The last one, F. Veranda.
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 Yeah. So the word veranda, and we are all very familiar with this word, right? I'm a Bengali speaker, so in Bangla we say baranda. What do you call in Odia or in your language?
Yes, ma'am. The same sort of pronunciation is boronda in Odia.
Boranda.
Yeah.
Right. So this is one of those many words that English has borrowed from Indian languages. There are many, many more words, right, which English has borrowed, and this is one of them. There are a few more words which we did not represent in the picture. Which are those words?
Participants, please reply.
There are 3 words which are not there in this picture. 3 शब्द हैं जो हमने यहाँ पे नहीं दिखाया है. कौन से है वो शब्द?
Yeah, someone has replied Chitrasen in the chat box.
Okay, I have to see the chat box. Wait a second. Disengage. Yes, disengage. Word number 9. We have not put it in the picture. What is disengage? Any guesses? Disengage, strain, and shuffling. These are the 3 words which we don't have a visual representation. We don't have a picture. So what do they mean? Anybody wants to explain? I don't know much of Oriya, but I know Bangla, so I can understand Oriya. So if you want to speak in your language also, I can understand. Okay, and if you can speak in Hindi, I'm very comfortable. So you can also feel comfortable to express in other languages. Okay, so you don't have to only speak in English. That's fine. Disengage is separate. Okay, that's close. Uh, Anybody wants to unmute and speak? You can put it in a sentence, or you can explain using your mother tongue, or anything. So disengage, as Chitra Sen has pointed out, it's separate. You engage with something means you're involved, and you disengage, you move away, right? So disengage is, in a way, you just separate from something. Okay. Strain. Trying to move apart. Yes, Chitra Sen, that's wonderful. Yes. Strain. What about the word strain? What does strain mean?
Making a great effort.
Okay. Yeah. So something that is a little difficult, right? It's a strain on you. It's strain on your time or your resource or anything on your body. So it's a strain. It's something like if I take an elastic and I pull it, right? So I'm straining the elastic. I'm taking a rope and pulling it. So there's a strain. Okay. What about shuffling? What does shuffling mean? Okay, so these pack of cards, like we play card games, right? So we take the cards and we shuffle. We take the cards and move them very quickly. So and there is a noise. There is a sound. This is a sound word. Shuffling always comes with a sound, right? So leaves, for example, when they shuffle, then you can hear a sound that comes out of shuffling. Shuffling of paper, shuffling of cards, shuffling of leaves. Are we all on the same page? Any responses? Okay, let's move forward then. Now that I have talked about some of these words that we are going to see in the poem, let us try and make a guess what this poem is all about. Okay, the title of this poem is The Trees. So before I play the poem for all of us to listen to and present the poem to you, can anyone guess what this poem can be about? If the title is Trees, what do you think it is about? What is the poet trying to do in this poem? Anybody can speak. You can just unmute and share. What do you think of
Ma'am,
poem?
ma'am, as the title suggests, it is about the trees, so it can be about the prevention of deforestation or promoting afforestation, or it can be the things we can learn from trees. The poem can be like that.
Okay, so it can be about issues related to nature,
Yes.
like Sharanya has said. What else can it be about? It can definitely be about nature and trees because that's the title. But can it be for something else also? Can trees stand for something else? What do you think trees can represent? one is a literal meaning, right? Literal meaning as in trees means it will talk about trees or nature or forests.
It also shows the life and its growth.
Okay, that's a wonderful
We can
answer,
compare it with the human life,
right?
the different phases of human even.
Yes, that's a beautiful answer. Yes, so trees can also represent, it can be a metaphor. You know, it can be a metaphor for human life. Okay, that's a wonderful thing. So, one is a literal meaning. Trees can be about nature, about trees, about forests, about the relationship between man or human and nature. Like Sharanya has pointed out, that can be one way in which the poem may progress. The second could be trees have a metaphorical meaning. Metaphor, as in trees mean something else, like the human life cycle or something like that. Okay, what else can trees be? What can trees stand for? What do you think the poet might be using the symbol of trees for? Okay, keep thinking about it as we read the poem. Keep thinking about it. What else can these trees stand for? What could it personify? Okay, the word that I want you to think about is personification. So put it in the chat box. So one is a metaphorical meaning, like trees stand for human life. And another thing that we can do with words is we can personify. We can make trees into a person, right? So that's personification. So think about personification as we read the poem, and then we will come back to this question. So you have the document with you. What I'll do is I will play the poem on YouTube for us to. 1 second. So before I play the poem for all of us to hear, you can keep the words of the poem in front of you. If you want, I can show you the next page of the document so that you can see this poem is on the third page of the document. The trees. And as you read this poem, I want you to think about this question. Two questions. One is, what do you think the trees personify? And second is, can there be a forest without trees? Where are the trees in this poem and where do they go? Okay, so two set of questions. One is a larger question of the title, how the poet is personifying the tree. What do these trees stand for? So think about that. And the next question for you to think is, can there be a forest without trees? Can we have a forest without trees? And where are the trees in this poem? Where are they located? When you read the poem, where are they located? And where do they go? So there is a movement of the trees in the poem. So from where to where spatially? Okay. So as we read the poem, you will see that poem के शुरुआत में in the beginning of the poem trees कहीं और थे, ठीक है, और उसके बाद trees कहीं और चले जाते हैं. तो ये कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहे हैं trees? That we want to find out. And we also want to think what these trees stand for. What are they, right? So these are the two questions. You can take a look at the poem while I'm playing the YouTube read aloud of the poem. Okay. I hope you can hear it. I'm just playing it for all of us to hear the poem.
The Trees, written by Adrian Rich. The trees inside are moving out into the forest. The forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. All night, the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the glass. Small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof, like newly discharged patients, half dazed, moving to the clinic doors. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. The night is fresh. The whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. My head is full of whispers which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of all the tallest oak.
Would you like to work from
Okay, so I hope you could hear the poem. Let's go back to it and let's read it aloud for the whole class. And we can have volunteers who can take up each of these paragraphs. So there are 4 paragraphs in the poem. Let's go through each of them and let's. You want me to show you the poem? Right. So anybody wants to read the first stanza? Any volunteers?
Can I, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. The trees inside are moving out into the forest. The forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could feed, no insect hide, no sunbird in shadow. The forest that was empty all this night will be full of trees by morning.
Right. Thank you so much, Itzasen. So where are the trees located? What do you think? Where are the trees and where are they going?
Due to deforestation.
Okay, due to deforestation, so trees have disappeared from the forest. That's what the poet is saying. Okay, and from where are they going into the forest? The trees inside are moving out into the forest. What is this inside space? From where are they moving into the forest? What could be the place from where they're moving into the forest?
Ma'am, it can be from the soil. The seeds have matured and they are growing out of the soil and they are entering inside the forest.
Okay, that's a very interesting idea. That maybe they have not yet taken birth. They are still under the soil and they are now coming out into the forest. Could be. Okay, let's see as we read. We will find out from where they are going where. They are going into the forest, that we know, but from where are they going out? We will get that answer also as we read. Okay, there is another very interesting expression in this paragraph. It says, without a forest, three things cannot happen. What are these three things? Come on. Tell me, what are the three things that cannot happen without a forest?
Ma'am, is
Poem
it the
already tells
second line
you.
where it is said that no bird could sit, no
Absolutely,
insect can hide
absolutely.
in the
Absolutely. So, without a forest, no birds can sit, no insect can hide. So, the flora and fauna of the place is just destroyed. No sun bury its feet in shadow. What do you think this means? Sun's feet. What do you think sun's feet could mean? No sun bury its feet in shadow. What do you think is the feet of the sun? How will we interpret this expression? Any guesses?
Ma'am, shall I try?
Yeah, please go ahead.
This is like a personification which is assumed to be as something like maybe humans, human feet.
Okay. Okay, could be. Okay, no sun bury its feet in shadow. So sun could be human beings. They can't have any shadow. They cannot, take shelter of the trees. Okay, the feet could be a human feet, which is personified through a sun.
Right.
Possible, possible. But we can also interpret feet as the sun rays, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the sun rays, they reach the ground. So it's like the feet of the sun. So the poet is trying to say that without the trees, the sun rays also cannot rest anywhere because there is no forest, there is no shadow. The sun rays, the sun feet is also just standing there naked in the ground. It doesn't have a place to rest. Okay. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. So there is a ray of hope, right? The poet says that by tomorrow morning, all the trees will come back to the forest. So that's what she's saying at this point. Okay, let's move to the second paragraph. Once we read all the four paragraphs, then we'll come back to that question of personification. What do these trees represent? What is she trying to convey to us? Okay. Anybody who wants to read the second paragraph? There are only 3-4 people who have spoken so far. It will be really nice if more people can participate. Any volunteer? Ankit, I can see your name here in the participant list. Would you like to
Yes,
read?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead. Second para.
All night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain toward the glass. Small twigs steve with extreme
Exertion.
action.
Hmm.
Thank you. Long cramped boughs
Bows.
suffling under the roof like newly discharged patients, half dazed, moving to the clinic door.
Very good, Ankit. Thank you for that. So let's look at the second paragraph. So in the first paragraph, we saw that the trees are moving into the forest. Now in the second paragraph, we have answered to the first question. Where are they moving from? The answer is hidden in the second paragraph. Can somebody guess? all night the roots work. Remember, in one night the trees will reach the forest. That's what she has said. So all night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks. Cracks where? In the veranda floor. So where do you think the trees are right now?
In someone's veranda.
In a house.
In a house.
Yes?
Yes.
So the movement of the trees is from the domestic space of a home, of a house, right? From an insider place which is covered into the open forest. So the movement of the trees is happening from house to the forest. Now this is a clue for you to answer that question. What are these trees standing for? Who are these trees? What does the poet want to talk about? What is the personification of these trees? Okay, so keep thinking about it. Towards the end of the poem, I really want more guesses. So the trees have to go to the forest. What are they doing? They're disengaging, separating from the cracks of the veranda. So it's all, the trees are inside the house and the roots are deep inside. So they are now beginning to separate, disengage. The leaves strain toward the glass. So the leaves of the trees are, they are also going towards the glass. They also want freedom. They just want to get out of the house, of the veranda, of the balcony. Small twigs stiff with exertion, right? So the twigs, small little twigs are also getting exhausted. Exertion is when we work very hard, we feel exertion, right? So the entire exodus, it's like an exodus. Exodus means when many people or many things are leaving a place together. Okay, you can look at this word. It's an exodus of trees. So just visualize, imagine that there is a house, lots of trees inside the house, and now all the trees are just struggling, disengaging, getting out of the house. It's a mass exodus. Many trees are leaving the house and going into the open forest. Keep thinking who these trees are, okay? We'll come to that answer. The leaves strain towards the glass, small twigs stiff with exertion, and they're getting tired. All of them are trying to get out. Long cramped boughs. Boughs are branches. These branches are all cramped inside the veranda. So long cramped we understand? Like if I take a small box and I put too many things, then it's cramped. You've seen in buses or when we travel in a train, बहुत लोग होते हैं जब ट्रेन में, तो वो क्रैम्प्ड होता है, जहाँ बैठने की जगह नहीं है, खड़े होने की जगह नहीं है. It's all cramped. Okay, we understand the word cramped? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So जब बहुत भीड़ होती है और we have no space to move, so we are cramped together. So it's the same situation for the trees. They are all cramped, and the boughs means branch, tree का जो branch है, that is shuffling under the roof. So roof, now it's a house for sure, because the house has a roof, it has a balcony, it has a veranda. Like newly discharged patient. This is a very interesting use of a literary device. Okay, there's a literary device here. Can anybody guess what literary device is there in this paragraph? Have we heard of this word simile?
Yes, ma'am.
Simile, what is a simile?
It's comparison.
Yes. Simile is comparison. Two things that are being compared through the word like. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, let's go back to the poem. I'll take you to the literary device also towards the end of the class. But just make a note of this paragraph. It says, boughs. So the poet is comparing two things here. The poet is using a simile. What are the two things that is being compared? Come on, tell me. In the second paragraph, I'm reading this sentence, okay? The leaves strain towards the glass. जो पत्ते हैं वो ग्लास के तरफ जा रहे हैं, ओके? स्मॉल ट्विग्स स्टिफ विथ एक्सर्शन. जो छोटी छोटी डंटलें हैं, ट्विग्स हैं, दे आर ऑल्सो wanting to break out, and they're strained, they are tired, they're exhausted. Long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof. So too many branches, they are just trying to move ahead. So there is a lot of noise that's happening, and because they're getting to break out from the roof, like newly discharged patients. So what are the two things we are comparing here? Come on, tell me. With the help of the word like, दो चीजों को यहाँ पे पोएट कंपेयर कर रही हैं. कौन से दो चीजों को कंपेयर कर रही हैं? Long cramped boughs, long cramped branches. Yeah, Sagar, go ahead. Sagar, tell me, what are the two things that the poet is comparing? Long
Ma'am, can I
cramped-
try?
Yes, Sharanya, please.
Yes, ma'am. Like the long cramped boughs means, as you said, as many people inside the bus, and they want to go out and they want to go in a fresh air. And like newly discharged patients, the newly discharged patients are so happy, and they want to go to their house like that. You can
They
see.
want to leave the hospital and
Yes,
go to
they
the
want,
house.
want to
Absolutely.
leave the hospital like that. The long cramped boughs also want to leave the house and go outside.
Right. So what are these long cramped boughs? They are the boughs, they are the branches of the trees. So you're able to visualize there is a house, there is a veranda, lot of trees. हाँ, बहुत सारे पेड़ हैं, वो balcony में ऐसे cramped हैं, और वो ऐसे निकल के बाहर जाना चाहते हैं. कैसे जाना चाहते हैं? Just like patients, just like newly discharged patients. So these branches are being compared to newly discharged patients. So the poet is comparing two things. Boughs, which are nothing but branches, is comparing it with newly discharged patients. Just like Sharanya pointed out that जब हम बहुत दिन अस्पताल में रहे हैं, and now that the pandemic is going on, we all know what that feeling is. In all our families, we know people who had to be hospitalized, and we were waiting for them to come out of the hospital, right? Because of this corona and everything. So you know the feeling of a newly discharged patient who was forced to be in the hospital. No one wants to be in the hospital. और जब हम हॉस्पिटल से डिस्चार्ज होते हैं तो हम कितने खुश होते हैं, हम वेट करते हैं कि कब हमें हॉस्पिटल से बाहर जाने को मिलेगा. तो पोएट कह रही हैं कि जो पेड़ हैं, जो उनके जो ब्रांचेस हैं, वो इसी तरीके से they are like newly discharged patients. They were sick inside the house. They were feeling sick. They needed healing. Okay, so the trees needed healing. So they have healed themselves, and now they are going out in the open, in the forest, back into their place of forest. Okay, so the newly discharged patients, how do the newly discharged patients look? They are half dazed. They are not completely fine, isn't it? हॉस्पिटल से घर आके भी हमें टाइम लगता है पूरी तरीके से ठीक होने में. तो जब हॉस्पिटल से हम निकल रहे हैं, हाफ डेज्ड होते हैं. व्हाट इज हाफ डेज्ड? Any guesses what this word means? Half dazed. half dazed mean?
Confused, maybe.
Yes, a little disoriented. Disoriented मतलब पता नहीं लेफ्ट है क्या राइट है, सीधा जा रहे हैं कि उल्टा जा रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा जैसे कंफ्यूजन सा हो रहा है, माइंड फॉगिंग सा हो रहा है, फॉगिंग, माइंड फॉगिंग वेयर यू डोंट हैव क्लैरिटी, you are getting confused. So half dazed means you're not alert. Okay, you're a little uh, fuzzy. Fuzzy when you're not clear is when you can see clearly, and fuzzy is when it is a little, like in Bangla we say apcha, like not completely,
Like
you're
blur.
not, blur, exactly.
The kind
It is
of.
blurring, yes, absolutely. So half dazed state means when we sleep, suppose सडनली अगर आप सो रहे हैं और किसी ने उठा के आपको कुछ बोला तो यू आर हाफ डेज्ड, आपको समझ ही नहीं आ रहा हो क्या रहा है ना। हम भूल जाते हैं कि हम कहाँ पे सो रहे थे, अपने घर में सो रहे थे या किसी और के घर में सो रहे थे, दिन है कि रात है। होता है ऐसा, किसी के साथ हुआ है कि आप सो रहे हैं और अचानक से उठ गए और समझ में नहीं आया कि हो क्या रहा है।
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, sometimes it happens
होता
when
है
they
ना?
are
Yes, ma'am.
blurring.
Yes, it happens to us. Sudden, especially if you were sleeping in odd hours, like when evening, suppose you slept off. When you wake up, you're half dazed. You don't know it's morning, evening, night. Where are you? So these patients are like that. They are newly discharged patients. They're half dazed. They're confused. They don't know what's happening. So the trees are like that. The trees are being compared to these half dazed, confused, blurry patients, newly discharged patients. Okay. So far, what have we seen in the poem? The poet is saying that there are lots of trees which are not there in the forest, unfortunately. They should be in the forest, लेकिन वो forest में नहीं है. But एक good news है, रातों रात, in one night, the trees will come back to the forest. That's what she says. Then in the second paragraph, she is trying to explain the struggle of the trees. That all these trees, how they're struggling to get out of the house and get into the open, freedom. They're seeking freedom. Okay. Now let's move to the third paragraph. Can I have a new voice? Another participant who can read? There is a major shift in the third paragraph. Gradually, you will be able to see the whole picture. Okay, maybe I can cold call and request somebody to read. 1 second. Chitra Sen, you have already participated. Khagapati, I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. Khagapati Nayak. Khagapati, are you here? Okay, let's move to Lippy. Lippy?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Lippy. Could you please read the third paragraph? I sit inside.
I will try.
Please.
Okay, I sit inside doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mention the departure
Scarcely.
of the forest from the house.
Scarcely. Say that word again. Scarcely.
Still, still reach like a voice into the rooms.
Right. Okay. I'll read it again for you. Okay. Listen to some of the words carefully. I sit inside. I sit inside. Okay, no problem, Khagapati. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters. So, who is this person sitting inside? And what is this person doing? come on. Who could be this I? I sit inside, writing long letters. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda. Remember, all this mass exodus of the trees is happening from the veranda, right? In the veranda, there are a lot of trees and they're trying to get out of the veranda. And this person, the narrator, the person, the voice of the poem, it could also be the poet herself. So she's saying, I sit inside, and what is she doing? She's writing long letters. And in these letters, in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. Why do you think she's saying like this? Such a big thing is happening, right? Lot of trees from her veranda are just leaving like this. But she's saying that I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. What do you think this could mean?
Ma'am, can I try?
Yes?
She does not want to write about the departure of the trees because it's very sad for her. That situation.
Okay. So maybe she doesn't want the trees to go out
Yeah.
of the house.
Yeah.
And they're all leaving her and going. So she's upset. So she's not writing about it. Okay, possible. What else could it mean? Remember, the trees want freedom, huh? So they want to go out.
Yes, ma'am.
So the trees want freedom, they want to go out. And is it good for the trees if they go to the forest?
Yes, ma'am.
It's good for them. But she's still not writing about it in the letter.
Right.
What can this mean? Do we do this in our life, in our own life? We know that something wrong is happening, but we don't say. Has it happened to anybody? Let us think about this. For a while, let's come out of the poem and think about it. Something is happening in your own house or in your school or in your college or in your workplace, wherever. Huh? And you know that it is wrong. The trees being inside the house is not natural. Is it natural for the trees to be inside the house?
No, ma'am.
It's not. It's not natural. It is good for the trees, right? If they go out. Now, you know that this is wrong, what was happening so far. And now something good is happening, but you're not talking about it. You don't want to talk about it. Does it happen in our life? We become uncomfortable
Yeah,
about
because we
things.
yeah,
Yes.
morning Smita ma'am. Hello, this is
Hi.
Swagatika here. Hi.
Hi, Swagatika. Yeah.
So because maybe they are benefited, the person is benefited by something that is leaving him or her, and that's why she doesn't want them to leave. She's being selfish, or we are being selfish at some point of time.
Yes, absolutely. Bingo. That's what she's trying to say. That, and it happens to all of us. I'm sure if we do a bit of reflection, we will know that sometimes we know that this is wrong, what is happening in our house, in our society, in our neighborhood, in our school, colleges, universities, wherever we are. We know, we can see everything. Oh, this is wrong, that's happening. But we don't say anything because it is convenient for us, right? Because for us it is helping. So we will not say anything. We don't want to discuss things that are uncomfortable. Yes?
we
So
might.
that's,
Yeah.
yes,
It
we
feels like-
become,
It feels like we might miss out or something,
yes,
or we might lose something if something goes away from us.
yes, absolutely. So keep this thought, okay? Remember, we have to still find out what these trees are. Once you get that answer, who these trees are, the whole poem will fall in place, okay? So hold on to your patience. So I'll again screen share so that we can see the third paragraph. Yes, I sit inside. Who is sitting inside? The poet could be sitting inside, or the narrator of the poem, the voice of the poem is sitting inside, and she's writing long letters, and her door is watching that veranda where all this mass exodus is happening, the trees are leaving, in which I scarcely mention the departure. Scarcely means hardly. Scarcity means, what does scarce mean? Another word for scarce?
Afraid?
Afraid is
Less.
scared.
Less in number.
Scarce is less in number. Scarce means lack.
Okay, ma'am.
Scared is afraid. So, Sharanya, you are very close. That's another word. Scared. Scared means afraid. But scarce, look at this word. This is different from scared. Scarce means lack of something, or less in quantity. Like we say, there is scarcity of water. Nowadays, many cities are facing scarcity of water, or there is scarce water resources. Water resources are less, there's lacking. Okay, so she's saying, in these long letters, I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. So she hardly mentions, like she doesn't talk about it. She just underplays it. मतलब इतना बड़ा चीज हो रहा है, सारे पेड़ निकल के भाग जा रहे हैं फॉरेस्ट में, और आप उसके बारे में उतना इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं दे रहे हो. आपको पता है कि इंपॉर्टेंट है, बट यू आर जस्ट मेंशनिंग, दे आर जस्ट गोइंग, दैट्स ऑल. Scarcely you are mentioning the departure. The night is fresh. Okay, so this is night. She's writing at this time of night. Night is fresh. The whole moon shines and the sky is still open. So just imagine these trees are going out into the open forest, and it's a full moon. It's a full moon which is shining very brightly in the open sky. So it is actually a symbol of freedom and openness that is inviting the trees into it. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. So the leaves and the lichen inside the veranda, that smell is still coming into the room. So they have not yet left, but they're just about to depart. Okay, so that's the paragraph. Now let's move to the last paragraph. From this last paragraph, we'll be able to come to the whole meaning of the poem. Again, I would request somebody to volunteer to read this last paragraph. Let's see. Khagapati, are you free now? Will you be able to participate? Okay. Then maybe Sagar Sahu.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. Please read the last paragraph.
My head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak.
Yeah. Thank you. So now in the last paragraph, what is the poet saying? She's saying, my head is full of whispers. Okay, so she's listening to some voices of the trees. Remember, in the last paragraph, she was saying that the smell of the leaves, the shuffling of the leaves, the lichen, the smell of the lichen, all that is like a voice. And these voices of the trees, they are saying something to the poet. They are like whispers in her head, which tomorrow will be silent. So tomorrow, all these trees will be back into their forest and there'll be no whispers. Listen. She's now asking for your attention as a reader. Listen, the glass is breaking. It's time for emancipation. Okay, emancipation means freedom. It's time for freedom. It's time for emancipation. The trees are stumbling forward. They're trying to go, but they're falling and they are again getting up and trying to leave. Into the night, winds rush to meet them. The winds in the forest, they are coming and meeting the trees. The moon is broken. How was the moon in the previous paragraph? The moon was full. Full moon was shining bright. And now, when the trees have gone there, they are breaking the moon. They are covering the moon. You can't see the full moon anymore. It, its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. So, the tallest oak tree, strong. Oak tree is considered to be very strong, yeah, and moon is considered to be very soft. What do you think these two things represent? The moon is breaking because of the tallest oak tree. What do you think the moon and the oak tree can represent? And now I'm coming back to the question of personification. What do you think these trees are for Adrienne Rich? Who are these trees for her, for whom she's seeking freedom? I'll give you a little bit of a background for us to answer that question. So, Adrienne Rich, she's an American poet, and she's writing this poem in 1963. Okay, and in America, around that time, a lot of civil rights movement, women rights movement, feminist movements, rights of racially black people, rights of black people, rights of women. A lot of these civil movements took place in America in that decade, 1960s, when she's writing this. And she's a celebrated writer and poet who writes about women's problems and issues and rights and freedom. So, what do you think these trees represent? What does a moon represent? And what does an oak tree represent? What do you
Ma'am,
think these could
can
be?
can I speak,
Yes,
ma'am?
yes, Sagar, please go ahead.
Ma'am, can we take moon as imaginary, like it is the in between the ground and the sky, the tree is there, the oak tree.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. But what do you think these trees could be stand for? The trees are getting out of their domestic space of their house and they're going out into the open to explore the forest. And Adrienne Rich is a woman who is writing about, about the issues of women. What do you think these trees could stand for?
Ma'am, can I try?
Yes, Sharanya?
Yes, ma'am. I think that the trees are the women who are suffering at that time. They are suffering for their freedom. They are struggling for their freedom to get independent and free.
Absolutely. So it would not be wrong to interpret that, and the metaphor, the tree metaphor, this particular poet uses constantly in her writings. She always uses trees as a symbol to represent women or humans, um, and in this poem specifically, she is trying to advocate or present the voice of women, that women who are restricted to be inside the house, who are not given the opportunity to go out and explore themselves, study. Remember, voting rights to women also came only like 150 years before, right? So she's actually representing the rights of women in America. She's talking from her context, and and she's uh, representing that struggle. So when so many trees are going out into the forest, it's good for the forest, but it's not good for the people who have been with her, with women at home. So if women have to go out and explore themselves, then there are a lot of problems that will happen inside the house also. Yeah, so it's not a very easy transition for anything, for the trees to go out into the forest or for women to go out into the world, right, and explore themselves. So she's talking about that struggle. And here the moon can represent femininity. Moon generally stands for feminine things, for women, like feelings, emotions. And the oak tree can represent masculinity, uh, strength and fervor, and right. So she's bringing both these feminine and masculine emotions, traits, together, and she's comparing the two, right. So now this is a kind of very detailed reading of the poem that we have done. Now I just want us to think a little bit about these questions, uh, which are there in the following page. Um, yeah. So let's think about the poem. A lot of it we have already kind of discussed, but just bringing it all together. And I would really love if, you know, uh, all of us could kind of contribute to this discussion. Find in the first stanza three things that cannot happen in a treeless forest. I think we've already discussed this, right? About the song of the birds cannot sit, the sun cannot rest, the insects can't hide, all that we have discussed. Let's move to the next one. What picture do these words create in your mind? Sun bury its feet in the shadow. What could the poem mean by sun's feet? This also we have discussed. Uh, that sun's feet could be a human feet. It could also mean the rays of the sun. Where are the trees in the poem? What do their roots, their leaves, and their twigs do? Can somebody respond to this question? Where are the trees in the poem? Where are they? The trees?
They are inside a house. They are inside their homes and they are trying to free themselves.
Right. So they're in the veranda, right? They're just there to leave their house. Okay. And what do their roots, their leaves, and their twigs do? The leaves and the branches and the twigs, what are they trying to do?
The roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor, and the leaves strain toward the glass, and the small twigs they stiff with exertion.
Right. So all the three different parts of the trees they're trying to break out.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, what does the poet compare their branches to? The boughs, they are compared to something. What is it compared to? The simile, like
Newly discharged patients.
who are half dazed, right? So they have been sick, but they were healing inside the house. They were healing themselves, and now after healing, they want to go out. Very good. So they are like newly discharged patients. How does the poet describe the moon at the beginning of the third stanza and at the end? What causes this change? The moon changes, right? From the third to the fourth stanza. Can someone explain what that means? How was the moon in the third stanza? Was it broken or was it full?
Full, ma'am.
It was full moon,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So femininity or emotions, that was inviting the trees into it. And then towards the end, what happened to the moon?
It breaks.
Pieces like mirror.
Yeah.
It got broken into pieces. So the trees went there, they completely took over the forest, and the femininity, the moon that it represents, that also got completely shattered.
So,
Yeah,
so Monishita, excuse me, can we like say here it is sort of a journey of from submission to aggression? So the moon was very submissive and then it became aggressive at a certain point of time. And
Absolutely. So
everybody sort of in the environment supporting the freedom. The tweak
absolutely.
from the branches. Yeah.
Yes. So the moon or the femininity, which was looking very nice and very beautiful from the house, there was no struggle in the forest. And once all the trees went and took up the forest, then there was a aggression, there was a struggle, right? Everybody came there in search for freedom and emancipation. What happens to the house when the trees move out of it? What do you think the house, how will the house look? How will that veranda look with all these trees left?
Empty.
Empty, broken. So the poet is also trying to give you a complex idea, huh? Just trees going into the forest or women getting out of the house doesn't solve the problem. Okay, so when women are going out of the house in search of their identity, freedom, they're also leaving behind a broken house, which needs to be, so it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle for the society to see how new roles, new identities can be formed for different sections of the people. Why do you think the poet does not mention the departure of the forest from the house in her letters? We have already discussed this about a discomfort. When there is a change happening, we are uncomfortable. It may not be beneficial for us. So we have talked about that. Let's now come to the last bit of today's discussion. Right. Now that you have read the poem in detail, we can begin to ask what the poem might mean. What could be the various meanings and interpretations of the poem? Can you connect the poem with your life's experiences? Okay, so this is the question that I'm posing. Let us have a quick discussion. And I think all of us can participate actually. I'll just post it in the chat box as well. Now that we've read the poem, we have heard the poem, we have understood the context from where the poet is writing, but each one of us can connect with the poem, right? Based on our experiences. So, for you, what does this poem mean? What does this poem mean for you? Personally, how do you connect this poem? And all interpretations are correct, okay? Like you just have to justify, you just have to share how you are connecting this poem with yourself. We could maybe start with Shubhranshu. Maybe and then you can tag someone. So all of us will get some time to speak.
Yes, ma'am. So, what I think is the poem is all about freedom, like moving out from one place to another at a particular place when you're confined for so many years and you move out to the world, you face the world. And I think the poem wants us to learn about that.
So in your personal life, if you want to connect this with that moving from one place to another, yeah, moving from your comfortable zone to something else,
Yeah.
how can you connect this with your personal life?
It teaches we should actually, like many children, like me also, for example, if it's exercise or something like waking up in early in the morning, that's not a part of our comfort zone which we prefer to do, but for being healthy or for finishing up our work soon, we should wake up in the morning or go for a walk, or something like that. So moving out from the comfort zone. I think I can relate with that, especially.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Shubhranshu. Can you tag someone? We are a small group now.
Sharanya, can you speak now?
Yes. As he said, and the poem is all about feminism, and the poem teaches us about uh, means we have to struggle for our own identity, we have to struggle for our freedom and for our independence, and everybody should struggle for his or her independence. So in my personal life I can connect this with, actually in our country it mostly happens like it for our teenage, for at the age of 18 or above that, we are in our house and we are with our family and we are living in our comfort zone. But at some point we have to we have to go inside the world. We have to we have to take up any job and we have to struggle with the challenges of the world, and we have to make our own identity.
Right, right. Yes. So you're in a protected environment when you're with your family. And then you have to go out into the world, find your voice, right? You have to find what do you want to do? How do
Yes,
you want
where
to contribute?
we can express our thoughts, we can express our ideas.
Yeah, and also find yourself in the
Yes.
process. Who am I? Yeah. That's a beautiful, beautiful thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Could you tag someone?
Yes, Chitra Sen. Or Sagar.
Chitra Sen has unmuted, I think. Chitra Sen?
Or I think there is Khagapati.
May I, ma'am?
Yes, Chitra.
Sagar.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Sagar, you unmuted?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that sometimes it's very difficult to express our guts in words, but still, just I want to say that one quotation is there, which I can relate to this poem and to the thing which you have just explained to us right now. So when a drop of water falls in a lake, it has no identity. But when that same drop of water falls in a petal of lotus, it has a distinct identity. So in that same manner, in this poem also there is it has been shown that to make our own identity, and especially it is all about feminism or the women empowerment, we can say. So here it is shown that when we have get to know about the background of the poem, about the American civilization and about the women's who were not getting independence, who were not getting freedom, who were not getting the wings to fly. So in that they have struggled and they have tried to make their own identity, and that's what the message conveyed by the poet in this poem.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Sagar. Would you like to tag someone?
Yeah, ma'am. There is Swagatika is there.
Swagatika?
Yes. So, Monishita, would I ask Subhranshu and Sharanya to participate? Or, yeah, maybe Subhranshu and Sharanya, you can carry on. It's okay? Yeah, to elaborate the discussion.
Yes, ma'am. We have already spoken, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Right.
could, if you just want to, contribute something to the discussion.
I just want to give the chance to the kids. Okay, so as I would take the word used by you, Monishita, you said emancipation. So no emancipation is easy. And taking the examples of all of the students who have wonderfully spoken over here, like how they are struggling. You need to pay a price. Something that we consider to be a comfort zone is not going to give us fruits. So sometime or someday we realize that we break from there and we start reacting. Reacting means, it's a rebellion inside ourselves. We fight. It's not with somebody, but it's fighting with our own self. Again, that's how we prove to be ourselves. prove to be ourselves independent of what we were in the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all the examples given by the participants over here are some or the other way meaning the same thing. We have an identity and no, getting a freedom or setting an identity. Taking examples of, like today itself, I was going through the stories, the success stories of UPSC aspirants. They're coming from very difficult backgrounds. They have been struggling their whole life. The entire, there was this family who mortgaged their entire property for the kid to study and get a position at UPSC, and then he tops or he comes in the first 10 as the first 10 ranker. So that is how you break off. And another thing I would like to add here, Monishita, to come from the comfort zone, we need to identify ourselves, like what we are.
Absolutely.
The moment we identify ourselves and the moment we know that no, this place is not where I am meant to be. I'm meant to be somewhere else. That somewhere else might not be better, but that is our place. Maybe then, yeah, that's the message that we can, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Swagatika, for adding those very important and interesting insights into the poem.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for staying back and helping this discussion also. So at this point, quickly, I just want to wrap up the discussion on the literary devices. We have already looked at how the word like is being used to compare two things, the branches and the patient's simile. We have already looked at that. There are two other poetic devices that she uses in the poem. So, not that we have not discussed it, but just I wanted to put it in a way that it stays with us. So here, three things that the poem really shows us is repetition, which is also called anaphora. We have an example of repetition in the poem. There is an example of personification, and there is an example of simile. So in column A, I have put the literary device or the poetic device, and in column B, we have the examples. Can we quickly match the two? Now that you've read the poem, it's going to be very easy. So which one is an example of repetition?
No sun bury its feet in shadow. That's one example.
Is that example of repetition? Which one is repeating something? Look at third one. Occurs in the first stanza. The forest that was empty, reinforcing the idea that previously there was no life outside. Take note of where no bird, no insect, no sun could bury its feet, etc. So you see in the first paragraph there is repetition with the idea, the reinforcement of the idea that there was nothing in the forest. So no sun, no bird, no insect. This is an example of repetition. So when do we do repetition? We repeat for emphasis, for reinforcement. Okay. So 1C. Okay, the third one is an example of repetition. Now, which is an example of simile?
It's B, ma'am, in the second and third final. Yeah.
Right. In the second, third, and final stanza involve human and domestic elements like newly discharged patients, like a voice, like a mirror. Is this an example of simile?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And personification?
A.
A. It is found in the first paragraph. No sun. Sun could be personified. Small twigs, long cramped boughs. Trees are stumbling forward. So it's like the trees are being personified as human beings. In this case, we said could be women, who are trying to break out from their domestic spaces, from oppression, or any kind of problems or issues that they are facing within their present condition. So these are the three literary devices that we find in the poem, and it's kind of shown quite clearly by the poet. And I just want to leave you with just one more video where Adrienne Rich is reading out another poem of hers. Okay, so it's a short little 2-minute reading of another poem of Adrienne Rich, and she's reading it out on her own. So I thought it would be a nice way to wrap up today's discussion and just take a look at another poem of Adrienne Rich, where she's bringing similar themes into her writing. So just give me a minute.
Ma'am, is it Aunt Jennifer's Tigers?
No,
We had that in class 12th. It's a beautiful poem by Adrienne Rich.
it is. It is a beautiful poem indeed. This one is, I'll just share with you. What kind of times are these? Okay, this is the poem that I found, which also uses trees as a metaphor. And Adrienne Rich is reading it out on her own. So she's reading her own poem. So I find it very. Let's see if you like it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here
Yes,
it
ma'am.
goes. It's a 2-minute reading of another poem of hers. Here it goes.
Adrienne Rich burst on the literary scene in the 50s, a passionate political activist, feminist. Adrienne Rich, who said, "Art means nothing if it simply decorates the dinner table of the power which holds it hostage."
There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows, near a meeting house abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there, picking mushrooms at the edge of dread, but don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else, but here. Our country moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is, the dark mesh of the woods, meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is, so why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees.
So with that, I just want to end the session. Um, Thank you for your patience. I know it's, when we started reading the poem, it's not easy to engage with a content like this. But thank you for your patience and participation. Some of you really participated a lot, and it was pleasure being here.
Great listening to you, Monishita. Thank you so much. It was great. Sorry for the delay. I wanted to come in the beginning itself, but I was preoccupied.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I have one doubt. Can I ask?
Yeah, please. I mean, we have some extra time because I was expecting more participants. I thought we'll have 30, 40 participants, and it will take a lot of time. But because it was a very small group, we have extra time. So we can discuss anything that you want.
Yes, ma'am. So when the paragraph, when it comes like scarcely mention the departure of the forest. Sorry. So scarcely mention, in the diary. So why is she not writing about them? Like,
Yeah.
in that
So,
part?
this can go back into the to the author's personal life. So there are two ways in which you can read a text. One is a literal meaning of the text and an interpretation of the text just based on the text itself. Suppose we don't know who has written something, we don't know the context, when it was written, what is the political context, which country it was written. Suppose we just divorce the text meaning from it, then it's a literal reading, it's a structural reading, because you're reading through the syntax, through the words, through the, right? So that is one way of reading the poem. So if we read it like that structurally, then we can interpret it as this, what we just said, that the poet is uncomfortable to write about this mass exodus of the trees because it's not convenient for her. She had the trees in her house. She was the owner of the trees. She had full control over them. They were decorating her veranda. She loved it. She liked it. And now they are going away. So, she's uncomfortable about it. So she doesn't want to, it's like her loss. She's losing out in the whole bargain.
Right.
So she doesn't want to talk about something that she's losing. Many a times we don't want to share about our problems, what we are losing, because we feel we have to save our face. So that could be one meaning from the text within. But if we step out of the text and try to understand the poet, her context, her when she's writing and all of that, this is a poem that she wrote in 1963, and in 1965, there was this mass feminist movement which she participated in. In 1967 onwards, she started writing about women rights and issues very vocally. So till 1965, she was not very vocal about her political struggles and her political ideology. This poem was written just before that. So we could interpret it as this, that she was uncomfortable to write about these issues about women. Like she's saying that I'm able to see all these things. I can see that the trees are leaving. All of this is happening. But I scarcely mentioned them in my letters. I am not very sure whether I should write about such a event.
Or not.
What is going to happen? How will people react to it?
Yeah.
See, any kind of social change, which Swagatika also said, any kind of change, and all changes some way or the other, they are socially connected. It's not easy, no? It's not easy.
And yes, Monishita, can I add something very very significant, that Adrienne Rich also, so far I have read Adrienne Rich, she has enriched her writing on feminist identities, and valorized that. She vehemently criticized the rigid form of the feminist identities. It's like she has spoken very outrageously about this lesbian continuum. I think
Yes.
this very phrase, I'm not sure,
Yes.
lesbian continuum. And
Yeah.
that maybe, she is representing the we.
Yeah.
We as a society shouldn't be talking about something that is not acceptable, like lesbian or gay identity.
Yes.
right? Because that's an identity that not people were not kind about. They were not kindly accepting even today. Like same-sex relationship.
Homophobia. Yes.
Yeah. So this kind of fear. Yeah. And then this is the female continuum of solidarity, and then impacts the women lives, at a large.
Yes.
So this was something that she has spoken about, and she has tried to make the world aware. Like, let's normalize something that we are not accepting.
Right.
Maybe that could be one of the reasons, Monishita. I'm not sure.
No, it is. In fact, the lesbian continuum is something that she, like Swagatika mentioned, she is a, voracious speaker, and she has conceptualized this idea that for women, freedom and women rights, it's not just about them going out into the world and finding their identity, but also finding the sexuality, right?
Yes.
Which is often not spoken about. It's a taboo, right? The way we look at women is that women are supposed to be very decent. They are not supposed to have any desires. All desires are for men.
Yes.
Men can do anything they like. The men are like that only. They can do this, that. We find this everywhere in all society, all across the world. So she's also trying to question that, and therefore, she's saying that this is something I'm not writing about because we don't know how people are going to take it.
That's
There are so many women writers who had to write under pseudonym. They had to become a man to write about women issues because they knew that if they write as a woman, they'll be ostracized, they'll be kept aside. They will not be given jobs. They will
Butch Eliot, to name a few. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So lot of such feminist writers, and Adrienne Rich that way is very different from other feminist writers. Like Swagatika pointed out, she was not only talking about rigid feminist identities, but she was looking at a fluid space vis-a-vis women's sexuality.
She has also pointed, like, I have read few of her poems, like, don't overthink. Why should a woman overthink when a man can do anything they want to? The concept of revolutionization should also come from the woman without overthinking. So she has also commented on this concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you, Shobhranshu, for this very, very critical observation and question that you've posed.
Thank you, ma'am.
I
Thank you
think
for
it's just
explaining.
taken the discussion to another level. So thanks for that.
Thank you for giving a chance, Monishita and Subhranshu, to participate in this session.
It was wonderful, really, connecting with you after a long time.
Yeah, Monishita. That's great, and congratulations to you.
How I wish there were more people because I was expecting a big group.
Yeah, we
But I'm
actually
sure-
requested, like, I thought this is going to be a wonderful session, and it is indeed. So I told them repeatedly, but at the end of the day, it depends on who is going to attend and who is not. We are doing everything from our side.
Subhranshu, there are several factors also. Maybe they have technical glitches, what we suffer from. So they
Maybe.
might not, they might not
Maybe
be
for
able
that
to join.
reason, I record and post on YouTube so that they can see afterwards also if they really want to see the video, because on YouTube it's always available. So yeah.
Yeah. So, anybody wants to say anything about today's session or share something or comment? You could do that, or we could close the session.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for today's session. Today's session was very good and it was very exciting, and we got to know about many things which happened at time, and also the literary devices we knew about it.
Exactly.
Thank you so
To
much,
decipher
ma'am.
this poem is a very big task, which you
Yes,
helped us
and
to understand.
the poem was also very good. It provided us a new it provided us a new line to think of something. Actually, the poem was very beautiful.
Right.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for introducing us with this poem.
Subhranshu,
Sir,
I have a request to make to Madam.
sir,
Yes, sir.
Madam, thank you so much for your wonderful session, and I request you to do a session for our webinar series, which started on 27th June and continue up to 30th January 2022.
Sure.
So I'll send you the program schedule so that you can let us know your convenient time and date.
Sure, sir. I would be very happy to participate, and I